All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty heavy, actually. We're looking at what can happen to widowed and divorced mothers in, Arabic-speaking countries when they try to find someone new, a new partner. And, it's rough out there. We have these two stories shared on social media that really highlight how vulnerable these women and their daughters can be.
Yeah, these stories are pretty intense. We've got a written account from a woman named Nawal. She talks about what happened when she decided to remarry after losing her husband. And we also have an audio clip from another woman, Ahmed. She had a similarly tough experience after her second marriage.
So basically what we're trying to do today is really understand these challenges, These women went through a lot, and their stories raise some really important questions about keeping families safe in these situations. I mean, sure, these are just individual stories, but they seem to be touching on something much bigger, something a lot of people can relate to. So let's start with Nawal. Okay. She's a widow living in an Arab country, and she ends up remarrying this guy who's like 15 years older than her. She's hoping, of course, that he'll be there for her, support her and her 20-year-old daughter, Amal. And at first, everything seems okay, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's part of the problem, isn't it? Things start off all nice and respectful, so it's easy to feel secure and let your guard down. But then things change. And Nawal started to notice these weird glances her husband was giving Amal. It's subtle, but it says a lot about what's going on in his head. Makes you wonder, how often do these kinds of predatory behaviors start with these little things that are easy to miss?
And then it just gets so much worse. This guy, he suggests that Amal, since she's an adult, should move out and live on her own. And on the surface, it kind of makes sense, right? A young woman wanting her independence. But then knowing what happens next, it all takes on this whole other meaning. And this is where it gets really scary. He actually proposes marriage to Amal, directly to her. I mean, what does that tell you about what he was really after?
I mean, come on, the nerve of this guy.
Yeah.
To just propose like that. It's a complete betrayal, right? He's supposed to be the supportive husband, the father figure. But instead, he turns the whole family dynamic into something, completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy is how direct he is about it. He doesn't even try to hide it. He doesn't care about the social consequences or what it would do to the family. He thinks he has the right to do whatever he wants. You have to wonder if he even understands, basic morality,
Right. And obviously, Nawal is just completely shocked. She's furious, of course. But then, to make things even worse, he tries to justify what he did by saying it's his religious right. He's literally twisting religion to get what he wants. How can someone use something so personal, something sacred, for such a messed up purpose?
It's messed up, right? He's trying to manipulate her, to shut down any arguments she might have, and to make himself seem like he has some kind of moral high ground. And this is something that happens a lot, unfortunately. People use cultural and religious norms to take advantage of others. It makes you think, how can people protect themselves from this? How can they tell the difference between genuine religious guidance and someone who's just using religion for their own gain?
Yeah.
You really need to have your own strong moral compass, especially in tough situations like this.
Luckily, Nawal doesn't give in. She refuses to marry him, and she gets out of there. She takes them all, and they go to her parents' house. I mean, talk about brave. She was in a terrifying situation, but she kept her head straight and did what she had to do to protect her daughter. Eventually, she ends up filing for divorce because he starts threatening her. She's such a strong mother, putting her daughter first, no matter what. What do you think her story says about mothers who face this kind of danger?
I think it shows how fiercely protective a mother can be. She was willing to leave everything, even though there might have been social pressure to stay. She knew her daughter's safety was more important. And then, she decides to share her story online. That's huge. She wants to warn other mothers to make sure they know this can happen. By speaking out, she turns her own awful experience into something that can actually help other people.
That's powerful. So now let's talk about Ahmed. Her experience is sadly very similar to Nawal's. This was her second marriage, and her daughter from her first marriage had just moved back in with her after a separation. What are some of the first things you notice about these two stories? They seem to have some things in common, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
The first thing that jumps out is how they both start with this, honeymoon phase. Ahmed's husband, he's 10 years older than her, so 62, her 50. He starts out by being super nice to her daughter. He even calls her his own daughter. It's just like what happened with Nawal, that fake sense of security. It makes you think maybe these guys do this on purpose, pretend to be nice so they can gain your trust.
And then, just like with Nawal's husband, things take a dark turn. Ahmed starts to notice him looking at her daughter in a way that just isn't right. And then, believe it or not, he straight up asks if he can treat her daughter as his wife. It's just so blunt, so disrespectful. It's like he thinks he can just make these demands without any regard for, basic decency. Why would someone act like that? Like, what's going on in their head?
I think it shows a lack of empathy, He's thinking only about himself, and he thinks he has the power to do whatever he wants in that household. It raises a really important question. Why do some people feel like they can just do this? What makes them think it's okay? Ahmed's reaction is really telling. She's shocked, and she reminds him about their religion, their values, and she even mentions his own daughters. She's appealing to his conscience, but it doesn't seem to work.
But he doesn't stop there, does he? He actually says, I want your daughter.
It's chilling, right? There's no beating around the bush. He's laying it all out there. How do you think that made Ahmed feel? I can't even imagine.
It must have been terrifying to hear him say that so bluntly. It shows how predatory he was, no pretense, no shame. Ahmed couldn't believe it. She brought up his own daughters again. Like, how could he even think of doing this? Her first thought is to find her daughter a separate apartment. It shows how quickly she realized the danger and how she was trying to protect her daughter any way she could. But even that wasn't enough to feel safe. Ahmed was so scared that she started sleeping in the same room as her daughter, locking the door every night. And this went on for 2 months. That's just insane. What does that tell you about how threatening this guy was?
I mean, it shows you how bad it was. She felt so unsafe in her own home that she had to barricade herself and her daughter in their room. It's really sad, because this guy was a real threat to their safety, and he didn't care at all about their well-being. It's no wonder she decided to leave with her daughter in the end. And then, to make things even worse, he accuses her of witchcraft. It's crazy.
And it's even crazier? He did the same thing to his previous wife. They were married for 42 years, and he accused her of witchcraft, too. That's not just a coincidence. It sounds like he has a pattern of manipulating women and then blaming them when things go wrong. What does this say about him, do you think?
Oh, yeah, that's a huge red flag. It means this is how he operates. He manipulates people, and when he wants out, he makes up these wild accusations to avoid taking responsibility for his own actions. It makes you question his mental state, honestly. Can someone like that even have a healthy relationship? And then later, he tries to get back together with Ahmed, but get this. He blames her daughter for the whole thing. It's like he can't admit he did anything wrong.
And you know what Ahmed says? She's like, why would my daughter do that? We don't need anything from him. It's so true. They were even helping out her daughter's husband. Ahmed was so sharp, she saw right through his lies. What do you think that says about her?
It shows how smart she is and how she sees things clearly. She's not letting him get away with his BS. And it's important to remember that Ahmed and her daughter were in a really vulnerable position. They didn't have much money and they didn't have a lot of support. That kind of power imbalance makes it so much harder to escape these situations.
So they're living together now, just the two of them in this tiny apartment. And someone in the audio asks Ahmed this really important question. Was this guy really trying to be protective, like a husband and stepfather should be? Or was he just after her and her daughter? What does she say? Get ready, because her answer is pretty intense.
She says, straight up, that he wanted her daughter. It's just, wow. There's no other way to interpret it. It's so messed up, the audacity of this guy. It's like he has zero respect for for the boundaries of their family.
I know, it's unbelievable. And then he tries to get back together with her, but on one condition. Her daughter has to stay away. He says, Ahmed can go visit her daughter, but she can't live with them. What does that tell you about his motives? He's not really sorry, is he?
Nope, not at all. He just wants what he wants. He wants Ahmed back, but only on his terms. It's clear he doesn't actually care about her or her daughter's well-being. He probably thinks he can get away with it because Ahmed tolerated his behavior before.
And the advice that Ahmed gets in the audio is spot on. They tell her to run. Don't even think about going back to him. He's selfish, he's probably unstable, and he doesn't seem to care about religion or morality at all. It's dangerous for her daughter to be around someone like that. What's the biggest lesson here for anyone in a similar situation?
That you have to put your safety first. This guy is bad news. He only cares about himself. And they also say something really important to her daughter. They hope she finds a good husband who will treat her right, who will make up for what she's been through. It's a reminder that she deserves happiness, that she's not to blame for any of this.
They tell Ahmed to shut the door on this guy for good and be thankful she got away. It's hard to leave, but sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. They say that real strength isn't about how many people you have or how much money you have. It's about your character and your faith. That's something we all need to remember, especially when we're feeling alone and vulnerable. And, the fact that this guy was willing to get back together with Ahmed only if her daughter stayed away, it just shows you how messed up the whole situation was.
It shows he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed. It would be a disaster for them to go back to him. And the advice at the end of the audio is so important for any woman who's divorced or widowed and thinking about getting married again, especially if they have daughters. They need to find someone who's a good man, someone who's religious, respectful, and who will protect their children.
They say love isn't enough. Even if you need support, you can't marry someone who's dangerous for your kids. It's a huge responsibility choosing a new partner when you have children. You have to find someone who will love and cherish them, who would never mistreat them or see them as objects. It's not easy, but it's so important.
They give a really strong warning. Don't even think about marrying someone who has a bad character, someone who does drug, or someone who doesn't have any morals. It's just too risky for your daughters. Their safety and well-being have to come first, no matter what.
Absolutely. If you're divorced or widowed and you have kids, you need to be so careful about who you bring into your lives. Your children's safety is the most important thing. You need to find someone who is God-fearing and respectful, someone who will treat your whole family right.
So looking back at these two stories, it's clear that daughters can be in a really vulnerable position when their mothers remarry. What happened to Nawal and Ahmed shows us how crucial it is to be careful and really pay attention to a new partner's character, especially how they treat children.
The big takeaway for everyone listening is this. Set boundaries and don't ignore red flags. You really need to look closely at a new partner's character, especially how they act around kids. These stories are a wake-up call. People aren't always who they seem.
It makes you wonder, how can we learn to see people's true character? How can we protect ourselves and our families from these kinds of situations? And what are the bigger societal issues that contribute to this problem? What can we do as individuals and communities to prevent this from happening and support families who are in danger? It's a big, complicated issue, but these stories are a good place to start thinking about it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. If you learned something today, please consider subscribing to our channel. We love exploring these important topics with you. And if you like this video, give it a like and leave a comment below. Tell us what you think.
We really appreciate you being here. We hope this was helpful and insightful. Please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts with us. We can't wait to continue these conversations with you.